For record-keeping purposes, if you wish to make a statement regarding any item on the agenda, please complete the form located at the entrance or at the rear of the council chambers and deposit it with the Planning and Housing Commission secretary. And welcome to the meeting tonight, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, communications from the public is next, and persons wishing to address the commission are requested to state their name for the record. This portion of the agenda is intended for public comment. State law prohibits the Planning and Housing Commission from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. The Planning and Housing Commission will appreciate your cooperation in keeping your comments brief. We ask you to please observe a 3-minute limit. Ms. Capilla, did we receive any speaker cards or written comments from the public for items not on the agenda?
No, Chair, we did not receive any speaker cards, no written comments for this agenda item.
All right, very good. We'll move on to approval of minutes from the Planning and Housing Commission meeting from November 6th, 2023. Ms. Capilla, any speaker cards or written comments regarding the meeting minutes?
No, Chair.
All right, do we have a motion regarding the minutes?
I'll move.
All right, and I will second that motion. And let's please vote. All right, the minutes are approved. And then next we have a public hearing. Public hearings are items that have been publicly advertised for review and consideration by the Planning and Housing Commission. The first public hearing is for PM 38694. This is a parcel map application to subdivide 1.48 acres into 2 parcels for single-family residential purposes, and 2 lettered lots for right-of-way purposes located at the southeast corner of Upper Drive and Lester Avenue in the A14.4 zone. That is a single-family residential with a minimum lot size of 14,440 square feet. Our applicant tonight for this item is Sajid Bari Sayed. And we have Mr. Aguilar, our associate planner, here to present the item.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Rene Aguilar. Tonight I will be presenting parcel map number 38694. The project site is located on the corner of Lester Avenue and Upper Drive. The site is zoned A-14.4, which is a single-family residential zone. Currently, the site is vacant and it is located within a residential neighborhood surrounded by residential properties. Parcel 1 is proposed to be 37,838 square feet. Parcel 2 is proposed to be 24,719 square feet. As I mentioned earlier, the zone is A-14.4, which requires a minimum lot size of 14,400 square feet, which the project is, the project does meet that development standard there. And the lot summary table below does include both parcels 1 and 2. And it also includes parcel A and B, which are parcels of much smaller size, but they are there for dedication purposes, ultimately, or for right-of-way purposes, Lot A, which I will show you in the next slide, and Lot B. So here's the map. And I'll start with parcel 1, which is what you see in blue before you, and parcel 2 in that orange color there. And then this one's going to be a little difficult to see, but on the upper left side, you'll see Lot A, which again, I'll run that a few times just so you guys can see on the upper left. And then Lot B, which will be closer to Upper Drive where the property line in the middle meet. Right there, you'll see that triangular lot there. And again, those are required to be dedicated to the city for right-of-way purposes. And that one right there in front of both lots on Sally Jeffries in purple is Lot H. And Lot H, I'll be discussing in a later slide, is an easement agreement. So moving on. Access for parcels 1 and 2. There's already an existing driveway off of Lester Avenue. You can see that to the left side, off of Lester on the left side of parcel 1. And then there will be two driveways proposed off of Sally Jeffries for both parcel 1 and 2. Now, touching up on that easement agreement is for ingress and egress and residential use, temporary construction easement in favor of the owner, and owner easement responsibilities. And that was recorded February 2023 with the County of Riverside. And this is a close-up of Lot H. Just wanted to highlight there for you folks. And again, this easement agreement with the applicant was recorded with the BV Estates of Coronas Homeowners Association. And the association owns Lot H, part of Tract 31373, a remnant piece, a strip of land located within the development. The agreement grants the use of ingress and egress to parcels 1 and 2. And I did want to point out a correction, miswording on the staff report. There was a finding number 3, letter A, where staff mistakenly did not put in the word does not exceed the general plan's maximum allowable density limit of 3 dwelling units per acre. Now, our recommendation to the Planning Commission is to approve parcel map 38694 to the City Council based upon the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval, and find that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to CEQA section 15332. And with that, I do want to point out that staff did receive an email from a member of the public, Natalie Hernandez. I believe you guys have that in front of you, and that is concerns of a 1,200 square foot ADU unit on Lester next to the house. They state that the house does not fit the look of the neighborhood and it will block the views. And they were told that the land to the left of the property would be used as a driveway. And also, staff did receive a petition to oppose the parcel map with 20 signatures from the neighbors. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and staff is available for any questions. Also, the applicant is here too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Aguilar. Very useful presentation. Do any of the commissioners have questions for any staff members?
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. I wanted to thank you for answering my questions earlier today having to do with the lot. Could you go back in your presentation, please, to the site map, the parcel map, rather, where, there, that one there. So on my copy in our packet, when you look at the purple line that you have highlighted there, and as you look at the annotations in the street on Sally Jeffries, and it talks about Lot H. The line that goes from the segmented line, the dotted line, if you will, where it's pointing out H, and it goes up into the parcel, and then that segment of the line stops. Does that, it's pointing to the annotation of Lot H. Does that have, what is that referring to for that line segment that just stops like that? Do you know? I mean, it looks like it ends in the right-of-way or the setback dotted line margin, but the annotation for Lot H points to it.
That would be the right of way.
Do you see the solid line segment in there, though? What does that designate?
Here, let me go to. So this is a more close up. This is a pointer. Would it reach that far? That's not going to work.
Commissioner Alexander, can you clarify which line you're referring to so that staff can determine?
Sure. It doesn't show on this one, the zoomed-in one, but go back to the Exhibit 1, that was, or 2 in our packet. There you go. So down there where it's highlighted in purple, and there's two annotations that point to the very corner on the left, the wide segment. And the one annotation talks about Lot H. And there is a solid line that goes from the purple area up to where the dotted setback line starts turning into the parcel, going north, if you will, and then it just stops. I didn't know what that line was referring to. It has nothing to do with Lot H now that I see it highlighted in purple, but I didn't know what it...
I believe that might be the building setback line. So the applicant just notated the required setback for the front.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I also had a question regarding the applicant's letter where the applicant talks about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The description under the 8th bullet point where it talks about the existing easement and the frontage of Sally Jeffries Way will allow the entrance of the properties and will complete the Bella Vesta community by building 2 single-family homes on these lots. But it doesn't talk about the driveway that's off of Lester. Is that an old description, or I guess I'm confused with the driveway that's in dispute with the neighbors as far as being a private driveway or easement or whatnot that currently just goes to the empty lot on Lester, on the west side there.
Yeah, so that driveway there was created when the improvements on Lester and Upper were done at that time. That's my understanding from Chris Horn with Development Services. Yeah.
So that now that the parcel map is coming forward, I don't understand why that driveway would exist, because it doesn't really relate to, according to the letter, ingress egress will be off of Sally Jeffries instead of on that side of the lot there.
It ultimately would be up to the applicant if they wish to keep the driveway. The driveway doesn't necessarily have to go with the new driveway being proposed off Sally Jeffries. It could just be a secondary driveway.
My question would be, are there any other homes in the original track map that have 2 driveways? This seems to be an exception. They're going to be accepted into the HOA, which I read the letter of the recording, and they're proposing to be part of the HOA, that this would be an exception to the rule. That would be one of my questions. And my other question would be, is there anywhere else in the track that has a flag lot like the one that's outlined in parcel 1? Right, because you're looking for consistency throughout the HOA.
I'm looking at the original track map and I don't see any immediate flag lots in the immediate area. There are some lots that have corner lots that I'm not sure if they wish to have a secondary driveway, if development services would allow that.
So there are other lots that open up to a major road like that, like Lester.
I would defer to Chris. Would you be able to comment on if other properties in that track map would be available or open to the possibility of having a second driveway?
Yes, we do allow residents to have multiple driveways as long as it doesn't exceed the maximum width in our standard, which I believe is 28 feet total.
Okay, when you look at parcel 1 there in green, and it's, I think, designated Lot A, and when you consider the setback dotted lines, do you know what that measurement is? Off of Lester between the setback lines? It was too small for me to look at.
Are you talking about the width of the existing driveway?
The one on Lester that's not being used, yes.
That's 14 feet wide.
Thank you. For now, that's all I have.
What, I don't know if staff knows any of the history of the parcel. Just because I know the applicant's letter sort of talks about the previous owner. And obviously there's the adjacent property on the corner that is there. Does staff know anything about the history of these parcels?
If I'm not mistaken, that parcel used to be a basin as part of when the original track map was recorded.
So you're saying the entire parcel was a basin?
That's what I understood, yes.
Okay. And then it's, then what, was it changed? Or, I mean, what's the process, I guess, if there's a basin? And because would that mean originally a basin's not intended to be developed?
Okay, I'm sorry, to correct myself, I believe it was a reservoir for private ownership. And the site's always been zoned for single-family residential, and so that's ultimately what they're proposing, to build a single-family residence.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to take the chance to clarify that if the map is approved and when it is finalized, ultimately the property owner is proposing single-family residences. Believe there's been a little bit of back and forth on whether there was going to be any accessory dwelling units. There's no accessory dwelling units proposed at this time. However, I do want to clarify that accessory dwelling units, ADUs, are state mandated. So the city's ordinance was mirrored to reflect the state mandates, and anyone in the city can propose an ADU at any time, and it would be completely administratively approved. It wouldn't go before the Planning Commission nor City Council.
And I have a question about the map too. Kind of, I know we were just trying to get some of the details and the presentation, focused on a lot of that. So the way it looks to me, and I want to make sure if I'm understanding this, but the parcel itself, as is, extends out into Upper Drive is kind of how it looks like on that.
Yeah, so, Chris, go ahead.
If you're referring to Lot B, that was previously granted in an easement to the city, and our policy when we do maps is to have them re-grant or rededicate right away, so everything, the bearings will all line up. And so if there was ever a vacation or ever a need to dedicate additional right-of-way, we would be dealing with one basis of bearing for all those parcels.
Okay, good. Thank you for the explanation.
So no plans have been submitted on these two parcels that, should this map be approved, that are for homes, single-family residences, dwelling units at all. This is just so that homes can be built on them.
Right, what's here before you tonight is the request to subdivide the lots, yes. And then ultimately, if they are, if the lot is divided into two, ultimately the property owner does have the ability to submit a building permit to construct a single-family residence.
But nothing has been submitted yet.
No, we wouldn't allow, or as currently proposed, we wouldn't take in plans because, yeah. Mhm.
And I think the confusion would be there with the submitted papers from the resident showing site plan ADUs, what we were provided to tonight. So I totally understand that. Mr. Aguilar, could you answer or suggest perhaps you or Mr. Horn talk about the easement and the policy or the practice of not building on easements so that there's accessibility? So right now, when you show Lot H, that's the only easement that's allowed for utilities or whatnot for the ownership of the other tract?
So what is being shown as Lot H is an offsite easement in favor of this property. It allows them to have legal access to the street for their driveways and their utilities. So it's actually outside their property, but it allows them to construct their improvements.
Okay, and so for Lot A and B, right-of-way purposes is just the circulation flow for those two streets, Lester and Upper?
Yeah, they do own underlying fee in those streets, and they're just rededicating that right away to us. So it's already been dedicated to the city. They're just rededicating it with the map.
Okay, and so for clarification on the flagpole lot here, parcel 1, where the unused driveway on the existing driveway on Lester, that does not lead to any utilities of any kind that need to be accessed or any water?
I don't think there's any plans to construct facilities there, but I would defer to the applicant for their intention.
Okay, I'll ask that later. Thank you.
Okay. Seems that the commission has asked all of its questions for staff at this point. So then we will open the public hearing on this item. And I currently have 2 speaker cards. And so if those who submitted speaker cards would like to come to the podium, we would like to hear from them.
Chair, we do have one person on Zoom as well.
Yeah, whichever of you would like to go first, please just tell us your name.
John Hernandez, and I am the resident that lives at the corner of Sally Jeffries and Lester. So in the parcel map, I'm that Is that up? I'm the resident there. So the parcel wraps around my property. So obviously this has the most concern to myself and my family as far as what are the plans are for this parcel. A big concern of mine is obviously that this wraparound parcel number 1 will have 2 access points, which no other residents in our Bella Vista community have driveways coming from 2 different directions. This property also does surround us from 2 of our property lines. I know this is not a hearing for the building plans, but that's what affects me the most is what comes next. And so what you see here is a plan. I have been talking with Mr. Sajid. He's been very cordial about his plans. This was his plans that he submitted to me today or as of this week and showing that he's not building anything on the corner of Lester and Upper Drive, which is where one of those driveway access points are. However, I have met with him in the past and I have seen different plans, which I'm going to show you. This was the plan I was shown originally, which has a 1,200 square foot ADU and an access driveway on Lester Drive. In addition, it also has a guest house and 3 structures on the Parcel 1 property. So my concern is now the property density of this Parcel 1 with unknown plans of what would happen on Parcel 2, where there could be similar situation and another ADU unit possible as well, where we could be having 4 families living on these 2 properties, which is a concern and does not align with our property. So this is where my concern comes from, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
My name is Paul Klein. I live at 3990 Lester, so I kind of live catty corner to that. There's a house on the corner of Lester on the, I would say the southwest corner of Lester, and I would be directly next door to that. I've lived there since 2004. When I moved there, you asked for a little history on the lot. It used to belong to Crown Ranch Water District. It was vacated by Crown Ranch Water District. It had an old pump station on it with oil all over the ground. This is when I moved there, and the way I know this is I managed the lot somewhat for the 2 different owners that owned it because I lived right across the street. At one time, there was a end dump that was backing in there and doing illegal dumping back in there. Nobody knows where the dirt came from in the first place. Aside from that, living across the street from it, I'm wondering if there were any variance given as far as how close it is to the corner when they put the driveway in, when Griffin did that, and how close it would be to Johnny's driveway. I don't know the answers to that. I'm kind of wondering if there were any things that were not really to Corona standard. I came here primarily to learn more about what was going on with it. Being as how I'm surprised it's even ever getting developed on since it belonged to the Crown Ranch Water District and it was an old pump station. I don't know if there was ever a phase 1 or a phase 2 done on the lot or the dirt or anything in there. That would be I don't know that I'd want to live on it not knowing that. I don't know that Corona would want to allow somebody to live on it knowing that. And those would be my concerns. I hope that we don't end up with an auxiliary dwelling unit across from us that is rented out and people are driving out onto Lester, and I hope that can be a condition. And if that can be a condition, that would be the only thing I would care about is that is not part of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you.
And then, Ms. Capio, you said we have someone on Zoom?
That's correct, Chair. I'm not sure if they have not risen their hand to speak.
Okay, very good. And so we've gone through the 2 speaker cards. Person on Zoom does not wish to speak at this time, it would appear. And then any other cards have been submitted in that time?
We have the applicant's card as well.
The applicant, okay, very good. We will have the applicant come to the front.
Sayed, and I am living in Corona for last 13, 14 years. I bought this parcel 3 years ago, and I bought this with the existing developments on the parcel was done. This driveway on the Leicester was already there when I bought this one, and I'm planning to divide this into two, which was original owner was doing also. There are two utilities on the Sally, two sets of utilities on the Sally, Jeffrey, and I don't have any plan to build a ADU at this time. Yes, that the one John showed that it was my original plan, but somehow my city said there was some problem, so we are sticking with only 2 units on one on each lot without any ADU or JADU right now. So I will be submitting 2 separate building plans. The houses will be around 4,000 square feet. And I don't have any plan to take out any utilities from the Leicester. It will be only a driveway for me. Okay. And I was talking to my neighbors before even, although HOA approved the original plan, which was with the ADU, HOA didn't have any problem with the ADU, and city did not have any problem with the ADU at that time. But now I'm taking back that plan, and I am not going to build any ADU for now. And I will be developing two single-family homes over there. Any question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So you hear your neighbor's concerns, especially your neighbor on the corner there. And do you have any comments regarding?
No, I spoke with him, and I told him that it was legally I can build the ADU, but for a better relationship with the neighbors, I offered him that I am going to move it. I'm not going to build it, and he offered that he might want to buy that piece of land on the corner, and I said, okay, fine, no problem, I can sell it. So if he's still interested, I can sell it to him.
So I'm confused. So would it be the entire parcel 1 or just
No,
the flag
just
lot?
the flag lot, just the flag lot.
So in looking,
He offered to do a lot line adjustment.
okay, thank you for clarifying that.
He offered to do a lot line adjustment.
So doesn't it make more sense for you to wait on this until that part of the parcel 1 is having a different ownership and you move forward with parcel 1 and 2? I'm just curious what your comments would be to that.
Wait for what? Right now, I'm applying for the subdivision. So after the subdivision, I can offer him, he can do a lot line adjustment. After the subdivision, when that parcel will be has its own APN number, and the other parcel will have its own APN number, then I can do the lot line adjustment at that time.
My other question for you would be, although you're under no obligation, there's already a driveway there, to, let's say down the road you decide not to sell them the flag portion, totally your right, you're the owner. Perhaps just closing off if this was approved and the wall was built up to upper, that driveway would not be used. What are your thoughts on that?
No, if driveway is there, it's for use. I will be using the driveway.
I understand. I was just asking the question.
Okay.
May I ask you if I understand that you are not current plans, you've rescinded the ADU plans and you have every right to build those. As you know, the city
Yes.
aligned with state and we would not even hear about it. It would be done ministerially. But I'm just curious, were there any other plans for other placement of the ADU or smaller size at all?
Not at this time. I'm not building any ADU at this time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. So with all of the comments, then, we will close the public hearing, bring it back here to the commission. I would like to ask just a question of the staff here. So I know this item tonight is to subdivide the parcel, and then there's been a lot of discussion about possible building on the
Chair
two
Woody?
parcels.
Chair Woody, I do apologize. It seems the speaker has raised his hand.
Yeah.
Mr.
May I have
Klein.
another comment? Thank you.
So we'll hear from the speaker on Zoom. I'm going to reopen the public hearing, and we'll hear from them first.
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't make myself clear. It's the speaker here in front of us, not the speaker on Zoom.
Okay, I'm sorry, misunderstood you. All right, so yeah, Mr. Klein, you didn't use all your time earlier, so we will entertain a little more of your thoughts.
You look at that from an overhead view and you look down on it, the way our neighborhood is up there, there's nothing like that existing up and down Lester or in the Griffin Homes development. When you look down on it, you look at putting his original plan where he had a drawing on there. It was nested right up against it. That lot is really narrow, and I think to walk across it and look at it gives you a lot more perspective than even looking at that site map. But when you're on that lot, it's just a little narrow finger, and to put something on it, it would not be what Corona is normally held to a standard in R120 or that neighborhood ever. It would be odd. And what I hear him say is that he does not intend on doing it now. At first he said he wasn't doing it, and then he said, well, at this point in time, I'm not. I think that if it leaves this hearing without a condition on it, it will just go into plan check and get approved at a later point in time. So I'm hoping you guys can condition it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As Commissioner Alexander noted, I'll just say this for our own benefit and maybe for the community members who are here. The state law, it makes it so that anybody can build an ADU according to the specifications that the state has decided. So whether or not anybody promises that, it really doesn't matter. And any of the other neighbors in this same subdivision can build ADUs as well. But so it's really not something that I think the commission can put a lot of consideration in on this relating to this item. But I did want to ask staff then a couple questions. So the idea of the ADUs, what are the size limit according to the state law?
The maximum allowable size is 1,200 square feet, and then and this is state mandates here, the side and rear setback can be as close as 4 feet. Now, if anyone in that neighborhood would want to propose any sort of accessory structure, our municipal code does also allow garages or any accessory structure to be at 4 feet as well. So I'm just trying to give a comparison of what state and what our ordinance is. And on top of that, you can do a junior ADU with a regular, so let me just take a step back. Junior ADUs are allowed up to 500 square feet, and they must be within the existing footprint of the house. So you can't just go and build a junior ADU elsewhere. It has to be within the existing footprint of the house. So you can do a one junior ADU and one regular ADU. You could do, in addition to the house, you can do two other ADUs, two junior ADUs within the house. And then lastly, you can do 2 ADUs in the house. They don't have to be juniors.
And then the distinction when you say within the footprint, does that basically mean it's the same structure, but it has a different entrance?
Shared entrance, yeah. So it'd be within the existing footprint of the house, basically, for the junior ADU. And elaborating on that, you don't have to have internal access. The intent of internal access is an option for, let's just say, a bathroom, where the junior ADU doesn't have to propose a bathroom. They can use the bathroom from the existing house.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or thoughts regarding this item?
Is the driveway on Lester grandfathered in?
I'm glad you brought that up because I also had a question regarding its usage and access to the Crown Ranch use that used to be there. And with that type of operation, to further that question would be, is there soil? Does the city have any concerns about history on that lot? And do we know the content of the soil or the operation, or what do we know?
So to answer Mr. Klein's questions regarding the soil, it's a standard requirement for staff to ask for a Phase 1 environmental site assessment. This is typically done before the issuance of a grading permit, so that'll allow for us to look at the soils.
Can you explain a little bit about the distance from Upper to the driveway and why it's so close to that intersection? The only reason why I ask is because a couple of projects have come before us, and the concern was, for example, the gym over there at Chase and I believe it was Mangular, where the access, the ingress and egress to the other medical building and their operations, and there were not allowed a distance, close proximity to that ingress and egress. So how does this work with being so close? It seems unusually close to the intersection.
So I'm going to defer that to Chris Horn.
Thank you.
Sure. That driveway I measured in GIS, there's a requirement in our municipal code that the driveway has to be 50 feet from the beginning of the curve, and it looks like in GIS it does meet that requirement. So I think the location is okay. That driveway was recently approved by Public Works in the last 10 years, so I think it meets our current standard. So I don't think there would be an issue here with the driveway from meeting the city standards
So it
from that
has to meet
perspective.
50 feet, meaning it has to be more than 50 feet from the intersection, correct?
That's the minimum.
Okay, and what is the distance?
I believe it's 50 feet, yes. I believe it meets the requirement, and it was recently approved by Public Works. So maybe if it was a little less, some exception maybe
might
was
be.
made. Yeah.
Thought to be old standards, perhaps?
No,
If it wasn't within 10 years?
it was approved with the current standard.
Okay, thank you.
I just did a GIS measurement. It's about 63 feet.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments by the commission? Do we have a motion to consider then?
Well, I'm not ready for a motion yet. I have concern that we have a petition with 20 residents. They're part of this association. I know the association has allowed or would accept the parcels into their association with the division. I have a real problem with the two driveways. I have a problem with the flag being on the corner. We talk about gateways into communities, and I know the applicant is not today any plans, but if we were to approve this a month from now, a year from now, within all of his rights, he could put a ADU there. I'm not saying that. I wondered why those that signed the petition are against it. Because if it is for ADU, then that's something we're not considering, right? It's not before us today. It's just the two parcels, the separation of land into these two parcels. Staff did a good job to lay out that it meets the minimum 14,400. But it's more than that. It's about being a good neighbor to the neighborhood. So I have concerns that so many stepped forward to sign this. I just wish I knew why they signed it. I'm not sure that any neighborhood, any HOA or any housing tract would like to have one or two ADUs on one side as their cornerstone. But that's our world right now, right? We don't have a say-so in that. I'm concerned about so many neighbors not being for it. And then I consider, well, what if it's not approved? Then what's going to be built there? I mean, they're two empty lots. They're meant for homes. My problem is the flag lot. That's it. If it was strictly parcel 1 and 2, where the delineation line was straight up to upper and the flag portion was something else, and I don't know what that would be, then I would have a yes vote. But I do appreciate speaking to the Hernandezes when I went out there. And I explained to them then, as I did follow up with Ms. Coletta's explanation, reminder about our ADUs are part of our municipal code. They're allowed not only in this neighborhood, but any neighborhood where they meet the requirements. So I do have concerns about it, though.
I kind of look at it as they could have made more than 2 lots out of this. I mean, based on it being 14,000, they could have sliced it into more. I guess it's a question. Could they have taken that flag lot and made it a long skinny lot and had that driveway and figured out a way to use that as a third and made them all very unhappy? I don't know. But like, I think what they're asking is, can you just waste that real estate? No. I think that's an unreasonable ask of anyone. Do you mind just not doing anything with that so that our view's better? No.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I see both sides of it. I mean, it's a strange lot. I mean, that's why I asked a little bit about the history to see if we understood maybe how that got created that way. And then, you know, hearing that it was part of a water pumping station or something, that was odd history too. But it's good to know that before building will take place, there would be, you know, some environmental checks of the land. Presumably, that wasn't an issue. There isn't a problem with the soil there, since there's the corner house there, the 3981 Lester, where the Hernandezes live. You know, the other thing, when I was kind of doing a little research on the neighborhood, from what I was able to tell, their house on the corner was only built in the last few years too. And so, you know, it would be ideal for them to be able to buy that strip of land from the applicant, but seems like that's also something that could have been pursued previously, and doesn't really seem like that is an issue for us to consider here as well. You know,
I do have a question, Chair, if I could ask Ms. Coletta. If during the process, or perhaps staff, if during the process, Ms. Yang, as you said, they have to do testing for the soil, if there's something that comes up, is it just a matter of mitigation, or is it anything that would stop the owner from pursuing the builds? How does that work?
So that's something our engineering department checks through the plan check process, and yes, it's usually a form of mitigation. This is not a hazardous waste site, which is listed differently through the state of California. So South Corona is notorious for a lot of citrus groves, and there's been pesticides on the property, so there is mitigation. So whether it's different, extraction materials and so forth, so yeah, all of that gets checked out during the grading process. But I've yet to come across a piece of property where it actually halts it because it's not a hazardous waste site.
Thank you for that. Well, I have a response, Ms. Longwell. We're going to find a lot of infill projects from here on out, right? And they're never easy. You have the existing neighborhood. Those have been there. As to whether, a real estate person told a house owner that it was going to be just an easement. I kind of wish real estate folks were mandated to have to say you have to check with the city for the general plan, specific plans, to realize that there might be the real story type of thing versus from a salesperson. We do believe in ownership rights, and they do have a right to build. We on this commission actually went through that process to bring that to the municipal code, and it's allowed. With all that information, I just wish we had a better idea of the folks who signed this. If it was for ADU, then that would be a different weight than in our discussion than if it was for another reason, which is not stated.
Yeah, I think the way I kind of interpret that, because yes, that's quite a few neighbors, although it looks like it's about maybe all of them live in about eight houses. Yeah, and I noticed one of the neighbors who signed it was the secretary of the HOA who executed the agreement. So, and knowing how HOAs work, the board of the HOA had to approve that. The secretary doesn't just sign an agreement on his own. And obviously, if the secretary had voted against it for whatever reason, he would still have a duty to sign the paperwork if the rest of the board approved it. But I also find it odd that the lot isn't part of the HOA in the first place. I don't really understand, how certain lots would be excluded from the, but maybe that has to do with the water pumping station or whatever we heard about for the history. But I think as Commissioner Longwell pointed out, possibly this could have been, the flag lot could have been proposed as a third lot in this subdivision. Depending on the way they wanted to carve it up. It's definitely a nice neighborhood, and I think we're all aware that our decisions can have true and tangible effects on any neighborhood and any residents. And I think, I think this issue for me just boils down to the specific question that we're being asked, and is that, do we subdivide this into two lots? And I have no problem with saying yes to that. So,
I guess and I do echo part of that. It basically boils down to subdivision of this lot into two parcels and ownership rights to build as they please, as long as they're working with the city and it meets the code. However, I would hope that the owner, wanting to be a good neighbor, would further open up negotiations with the resident on the corner and possibly renegotiate the sale of the flag portion of that. And with that, I'm done.
yeah, absolutely. I thought it seems like that would be a better outcome for everybody involved. But nothing that we can really do other than make comments saying that we support that. But in that case, then I will make a motion to approve this item.
I'll second.
Okay, then let's please vote. All right, motion passes. The item's approved. And then that was our only public hearing for the evening. So we are at the portion of written communications, and I'll ask the secretary if we've received any communications from persons providing information or seeking action by the commission.
No, Chair.
All right. Any reports from our director tonight? No? Any other reports or comments from the commissioners? Okay, very good. With that, we are adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 11th here at 6 o'clock.